So this is our interview with Johnny Culbertson, and Johnny was covering recently the SJSU women's gymnastics team and their win in the conference championship. That is the Mpsf conference, not the Mountain West Conference. So real quick, Johnny, because you actually attended this in person in Davis, California. So just what was your take? What are the people missing here?
This team is honestly, they're really special. There's just something about the team on the road. They just come with this energy, and it's really just driven from within the organization. Everywhere they go, I had the chance to talk with Coach earlier this season, and Coach Bowers told me about how on the road they're always working on building this energy so that they always have like drive to be going into these tournaments on the road. They can't always rely on the home crowd. And I also think it stems from the last couple of seasons where there weren't any fans. And I believe it was over like 700 days since they had gone in a span up until this season where they didn't have home fans in attendance and any of their home meets. They were obviously due to COVID, they couldn't have people in attendance. And gymnastics is a sport that's kind of driven on like cheer. Uh, and it's been driven by the team for the last two seasons. And this season, their experience with like helping support each other really just kind of culminated. And they're just really experts at bringing an energy on the road.
Yeah, I wanted to, I guess, follow up real quick on that specifically because if you look at any of their clips on Twitter or YouTube or any highlights in general, it's always like they do something amazing on the bars or the vault or what have you, and then all of a sudden, any one participant is flooded with all of the other gymnasts, and they're all cheering and like cheering each other on. So, like, is that something that's like different than other gymnastics programs? Is that something that specifically SJSU does?
I would say it's not exactly different, but I will say there's a different energy with the
Hmm.
Spartans. I've taken to denoting it as quote unquote the Spartan Scream. They every time they know how to support each other, and obviously I'm not aware of every single mistake that they make, but they are, and they're waiting there, and they're very silent. Then once they stick the landing, you just hear the whole team scream, they charge, they're all excited, and this support, it's really driven off of wanting to compete not just for themselves, but they're all out there competing for each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And moving on real quick for gymnastics specifically and for the MPSF, I think they had some sort of conference awards come out. And Joanne Bowers won MPSF Coach of the Year. And then also the assistant coach, James Williams, got MPSF Assistant Coach of the Year. And, there are so many different gymnasts on this team that can dominate. There's like specialists, and then there's all around, girls as well. And for every event, there's kind of like a threat of like a 9.9. This team as a whole can. There's always a 9.9 threat somewhere. Could you talk a bit more about maybe how the coaching staff is able to produce results out of everyone? It's not just one star athlete.
Yeah, so I would definitely say after talking with Coach Bowers, it's something that comes from a mentality standpoint where uh, the coaches are always driving into the team to just go out there and have fun. They're not focused on postseason. Every meet, it's one at a time, one event at a time. They're out there to have fun. They're out there to relax because when they start thinking outside of that, they start to tense up. They have trouble keeping their balance. And it goes on and on. The whole multitude of problems come into play when the coach isn't able to keep them relaxed and let them be out there and just perform.
Awesome. Alex, you got any questions for us?
Yeah, I just had one question. I know it was mentioned by Bowers just about how excited they are on winning the championship, especially because of COVID-19. That affected almost every single sport. So going into just in the future, like what's the mindset if they've even gotten to that point yet? Because I know they just recently won, but like what's the mindset going forward to continue like the success?
Yeah, so the juniors and below, they haven't been able to attend a conference championship at all in their college gymnastics career. And so they're really excited to just go out there and just compete. Because at the end of the day, they're athletes. They love competition. They want to go out there and show the culmination of their hard work over the season. And I think that's been kind of a driving factor for them, is that they're just so happy to be able to compete, that they're coming out there and they're really able to lock in and just dominate.
Them like, because I couldn't get a live feed, so I only got the statistics. I didn't get it to see anything else. And even still, you're kind of blown away at just the statistical dominance, right? I think I've covered 3 events. There's 4 events or 4 categories in each event. I think I only saw them lose a single event where they weren't having the leading score getter in any event. So it's just incredible how dominant this team is, and I think even for San Jose State standards, it's pretty incredible. You just talk a little bit more about just like, I don't know, it's almost like these numbers that it almost doesn't make sense how good they are.
Yeah. So I really think it's just this team, they really step up to the occasion. One thing that's really interesting to note is their 3 highest scores this season all came when UC Davis was in attendance. And UC Davis has been kind of their main competition in the conference all year. And even at the championships, that was their 3rd best team score of the year. And we also saw Jada Missouri and Emma Milne put up 2 of their career highs, Missouri on the floor and Milne on the balance beam. And it's just in that setting, in a conference championships, to step up and put on like a career high or personal best is really just amazing what this team can do when they step up to the occasion. And that's top to bottom. I really saw everyone. I thought a real highlight of the conference championships was Jade Lopez. She had some trouble with consistency earlier in the year, but coming into the conference championship, she locked in she started the team on vault, or she started the team on the uneven bars, and she ended the team on vault, and all the way around, all 4. She's an all-arounder. She had really solid performances, and it's really great to see.
Awesome. Yeah. And you talk about individuals. I think so. There's 2 awards for MPSF gymnasts. It's Gymnast of the Week and then Specialist of the Week. And I think we had Jada Missouri, Jada Lopez, Emma Milne, and Lauren Macpherson all win the awards. And I mean, there were multiple times where we took both awards, and that was just it. It was wraps for the week. So I mean, I know that it's a team sport at the end of the day, but can you talk a little bit more about just the individuals on this team that are really making it shine?
Yeah, I mean, Missouri is just a special talent. I think she's won 4 or 5 Gymnast of the Week honors over the course of the season, and that's amazing. And this team has one thing that I think helps them come out and get these big scores and break these team records is their specialists. They have Emma Milne, they have Madison Kirsch, and they come out there and they perform in their 1 or 2 events that they're put on by coach, and they go out there and they play the role, they get the scores for the team, and it's really great to see what they can do. But they're also, the driving factor is, again, they compete as a team. So even though you have these specialists, they know they're going out there and they're helping the team to get the score. And you have your all-arounders that are coming out there competing on all 4 events, and the support they get from each other is helping them get these like personal records, as well as like helping them break the team's own school records.
Awesome. Those are all my questions. Alex, you got one more? Okay. Anything else we should have touched on? Anything else that you want to talk about, John?
I will say that they're going to be performing. Their season's not done yet. They're going to be at regionals and the University of Washington, I believe, in a week or 2. And I'm really excited to see what they can do on the road. This was kind of the best case scenario for them. They just had selection show, and they were able to get Washington. They could have gone to a couple other locations, but Washington is the closest for them. They're going to have a lot of time to prepare for this, and it's going to be a little bit closer to home. They're not going to have a lot of like fatigue from traveling. So I'm excited to see what they can do in the setting.
Awesome. And one more thing, John, is there anything we can plug for you at Twitter or any work that you're doing?
Yeah. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter, JohnColb3. And I tweet about sports, mainly SJSU, but you can always catch me tweeting about Memphis Grizzlies, my favorite team in the NBA.
There you go. All right. John Culbertson, reporter for The Spear. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Thomas here with Alex, and we are giving you the latest in San Jose athletics and articles on thespear.com, thespearsjsu.com. First off, recap. Beach picks up 2 wins on San Jose Sand Friday. The San Jose State Beach Volleyball cracked its 7-game losing streak Friday on the South Campus after going 2-0 against University of San Francisco and St. Mary's. Spartans now sit at 4-9 on the season, and all 4 wins have come on the home sand. San Jose State will finish off the weekend at Spartan Beach on Sunday, so that already happened. You can go and look up the result over on SJSU Athletics, and they played on Sunday morning against Arizona. Story by Ernie Gonzalez, our boss and the managing editor of The Spear.
Spartans snapped 4-game losing streak behind stellar pitching. It was refreshing for the Spartans to go into the 7th inning tied at 2 instead of the game being virtually decided. During the 4 previous losses, 12-6 was the closest margin in a game that was heading into the top of the 7th inning. We feel comfortable there, said SJSU head coach Brad Sanfilippo. Our guys have been able to have good at-bats and manufacture runs in situations in which we needed them. Story by Matt Weiner.
Bizarre walk-off clinches series sweep against the Aztecs. Down 6-1 in the 6th inning, the Spartans appeared satisfied, taking 2 wins and were ready to mail in their 3rd game of the series. Minus a Dalton Bowling home run in the 2nd inning, where he stood at home plate and marveled at his creation. The way dads admire well-done seared steaks on the barbecue during the 4th of July, there wasn't much to write home about. That all changed in a wild San Jose State comeback, including a walk-off strikeout, a rare occurrence in baseball just in general. The Spartans entered Friday down in the dumps, riding a 4-game losing streak, and left singing for joy after notching their first conference sweep of the year. Story by our baseball beat reporter, Matt Weiner.
I'm trying to read through this one because this is a 3-game series recap. So I'm trying to figure out where the 3rd game is, but okay. Softball rebounds after Game 1 loss to finish series 2-1. The San Jose Spartans softball finished a 3-game series 2-1 against New Mexico. The Spartans lost Game 1 2-1 despite a pitching showcase by Caroline Bowman. Bowman had 8 strikeouts through 7 innings and kept the Lobos scoreless through regulation. However, in the top of the 8th, Bowman gave up 4 hits and 2 RBIs, which was all the Lobos needed to secure the win. In Game 2, the Spartans shut out the Lobos in an 8-0 victory. The game was scoreless through 3 innings until the 4th inning when the Spartans' bats caught on fire. While the Spartans filled up the scoreboard in Game 2, Game 3 may have been the most exciting of all. The Lobos scored a run coming out of the gates in the 1st inning to take a 1-0 lead, and it stayed that way until the bottom of the 5th. Story by Aiden Bostic.
The San Jose State men's and women's track and field teams struggled during the Cardinal Classic on Saturday in Palo Alto, California. Neither team managed to place first as a whole, and only a handful of players from both teams managed to place in the top 3 of their respective events. SJSU will be returning to Stanford University on April 1st to compete in the Stanford Invitational. Story by Autumn Blue. Cool.
San Jose State Water Polo beat Santa Clara 13-5. The San Jose State women's water polo team woke up bright and early Tuesday morning to go head-to-head with the Santa Clara University Broncos at home. Throughout the first period, SCU attempted shot after shot, but couldn't get through the Spartans' defense, specifically against SJSU senior goalkeeper Hannah Henry's killer skill sets from stopping the ball. The Broncos could not keep up with the Spartans' momentum and only were able to add 2 goals to their score, while SJSU continued to sweep SCSU by adding 3 more goals in the fourth period, 12-4. The Spartans secured the win against the Broncos 13-5 and managed to snap their 3-game losing streak. SJSU will be playing Indiana University on Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Blue. SJSU will be playing Indiana University on Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in Bloomington. Story by Autumn Blue.
Spartans lose to Broncos in heartbreaking fashion. The San Jose State baseball team lost to Santa Clara on Tuesday, 12-9, in an unfortunate walk-off fashion. The crosstown rivalry sure lived up to its hype as the Spartans battled back down 7 runs to tie it in the 9th inning at 9 apiece. "We came back from a 7-0 spot, and that's huge from us," said sophomore outfielder Kimo Fukufuka, who homered in his first career start as a Spartan on his birthday. Dusting themselves off from a 7-0 score, the Spartans achieved that against the Broncos despite its low odds. With the loss, the Spartans now have an overall record of 12-9, yet they still feel the repercussions of the 3rd inning in the end. The Spartans will continue in the Mountain West, going up against UNLV on Friday at Excite Ballpark at 6:05 p.m. Story by Zulma Kanahui. And that is everything that happened in San Jose State Athletics this week. So much for tuning in to the Spear Podcast.
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is the Spear Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Thomas, and I'm also here with Spear writer Matt Weiner. Matt, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Right?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna replace that. Hold on. I'm gonna replace that statement. I'm pretty sure I just bombed a midterm. So yeah, I'll be honest, you're catching me at an awful time right now. Like
what was the midterm
on? Oddly enough, it was a journalism class that like pretty much is the same things I do every day. So this is where I get to remind myself that, hey, maybe I should just like go into a different field. So if this doesn't do well, then I think I might just go join business or just be basic communications. So hopefully that's not too much pressure on you guys.
Oh, no, man. I'm sure you did fine. And honestly, a midterm doesn't define who you are as a writer, dude. So don't even worry about it, bro.
The latter, yeah, I agree with the latter. The first part, no, it's not great. But yes, let's talk some SJSU baseball. Pretty much like the thing that makes us forget about everything else in life.
Yeah, for sure. So you wrote a piece last week. It's on the Spear website, and you can everyone listening, you guys can watch or read it on the SpearSJSU.com, and it's titled "Weiner: Inconsistent Starting Pitching Paving Recent Ups and Downs for the Spartans." And kind of my first question that I wanted to propose to you is, why do you think the pitching has been such a struggle for the Spartans?
Can't throw strikes. It's as simple as that. You can't throw strikes, then you're not going to win games. If you look at what happened, because I was coming off of the Nevada series, so thankfully for the Spartans at least, so dropped 4 in a row, so that was 3 to Nevada, 1 to Cal, and then they also swept SDSU. Pitching was okay during SECU games, but let's go back to when they're struggling. So when they're struggling, the biggest thing is can't throw strikes, and it just sets up these monster innings, because we have to remember that when you're playing in the Mountain West, elevation high. So just kind of like Coors Field is that like, yeah, when you're playing the mountains, balls are going to get bombed. So you can't put guys on base initially that sets up just those huge extra base hits.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I actually didn't even think about, elevation affecting the pitching, but yeah, no, that's a really good point there. And also, and I guess like that leads into we're already like halfway through the season. I know we have a couple more games, so I think we officially get to that halfway point. But do you think like the pitching can improve at all at this point, or is it kind of just set in stone? And if you think it could improve, like what do you think? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, if the pitching improves, then I guess the guy that I would start with is Mickey Thompson. During his first start of the year, the series against Omaha, Nebraska, was able to get out. I think he actually put up 4 or 5 scoreless innings, but walked a bunch of guys. It was like 6 or 7 guys, and that's the guy who I'm starting with. For you have to improve for the pitching staff to get better, and Mickey knows it is like this isn't rocket science. Like Mickey knows it as well, but he's just put up some just I just had to say it's just bad starts. They're just not good. Last night, especially against Santa Clara, that was a tough game. That was a really tough game for Thompson. Went 3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 7 runs. Only one of those were earned, but the 3 walks. But the start that like really sticks out to me is when he went 1 1/3 against Nevada on March 13th, gave up 8 runs and 8 walks. Probably like I would say kind of like one of the craziest stat polls is he had 7 walks before registering 4 outs in that start against Nevada. That's the one that will always stick out to me. And I think might not be like the synopsis of how of the pitching struggles from everybody else around him, but that's the one where I look back on and think if you throw strikes, the game looks a lot different.
Yeah, I actually had a follow up for that because the pitching staff, the coaching staff for the pitching, a lot of them have a major league pedigree. Do you think there's any sort of experience or ability there? Is there some way to resuscitate the pitching depth through coaching, or is this going to be something that each of these individual guys in the bullpen are going to have to figure out themselves?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think there's one part of the coaches are going to be the reason that the pitching improves. Just not just one way. So it's not going to be just the coaches, but it's also not going to be just the players. This is the mix. This is where both forces come together, where you obviously the pitchers have to put in the work. That's like bullpen, stretching, J bands, things like that. And then the coaches also have to be willing to speak up and coach in the right way, where this is wrong. This is how you fix it. Let's move on. Or this is a possible way to fix it where it doesn't just become bickering matches back and forth. So that's and this goes for every sport. The coach's job isn't to just purposely like denigrate you into oblivion. No, the coach's job is to spot what's wrong and then fix it. Spot what's wrong and fix it. And yeah, like you do bring up a good point that coaches here do have experience. And even Coach Sanfilippo himself, like he's coached major league guys. The big names that he's coached aren't pitchers. Like the big names for him are Mark Canha and Marcus Semien. Those aren't pitchers, but he has been around plenty of pitchers, everything of that nature. And Seth Moyer has been working, the pitching coach, Seth Moyer. He's been working with these guys since either last summer, and like the fall league with some of the transfers, and then other guys from SJSU who've been here for a longer time.
Okay, I got one more for you, Matt. Because I was reading your piece and I really like the analogy you made where it was you're late for your flight and then all of a sudden you're like behind on everything, and it's sort of the mental side of things that you described, right? Where you go like, there's a difference between coming into a situation prepared and then coming into a situation where you're kind of blindsided by certain things on the mental side of things. And that's true of anything, and that's true of like you put in your piece. It's true of trying to get into a flight, and that's very true in a baseball game where when you go down early and if you give up a big lead in the first 3 innings, it feels like the fate of the game is already decided. And I just wanted to talk about for the younger players at the college level, when you go down early in an inning or go down early in a game, do you think it's harder or something that maybe you have to develop, or that sort of thick skin to have that mental resolve to actually fight back and actually like chip away at a lead? Or is that something that it comes down to coaching and just in general?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, but I mean, these guys have played, like, I think that's something people sometimes like forget about is how much baseball these guys have played in their lives. So when you're looking at it now, we're not talking about anything new that these guys haven't experienced before in travel ball, in high school, in little league, in pony baseball, or whatever that like in between little league and high school league looks like for that person. So this isn't new. And they know that like when you go down, it makes life incredibly harder. And just like with Mickey Thompson when he's not throwing strikes, Ethan Ross when he's not throwing strikes, for Carter Henninger when he gives up 8 runs to Cal, these guys know that they're putting themselves in bad positions, and they know that that's not what that's not expected of them to win, and they know that adjustments have to be made. There's like little things like Ethan Ross before the game against the game on Sunday, or the doubleheader on Sunday against SDSU. He was telling me to tell the people who are in charge of the walk-up songs to just cut his first song. I think the Downfall of Us All, forgot who the artist was, but it's called like the Downfall of Us All. So maybe the walk-up song will change things for him. But yeah, like this is nothing new for these guys. These guys have played so much baseball all their lives that if you're just figuring out that you can't do this, then I mean, just kind of hit the door, walk out, because you're obviously not prepared. But these guys know, so it's not something that like has to be taught to them. But the resolve, I think you bring up a good point with that the offense has shown resolve. I mean, just some of these wins are incredible, electric, every word imaginable. Last night, so we're recording this Wednesday morning against Santa Clara, come back from 7-1. It's kind of a bummer to get walked off on, but they had a lead. Like they're down 7-1, end up having a 9-8, or yeah, I think at one point a 9-8 lead going into the last 3 innings of the game.
Yeah, so and then I also wanted to reference some of your writing in your piece that you had. So there's 2 quotes, but they're separate, but they work together. You have the Spartans offense has been doing enough to win. And then a second quote, it says, what made the win streak spectacular was the pitching staff being able to punch zeros in and let the offense come around in the back half of a game. And this is something that's been pretty consistent, not just like in one particular game. It's been multiple games. Do you think, like, despite the poor pitching, the Spartans have a decent record? They're 12-9 right now, just off that loss against Santa Clara last night. But do you think that, like, despite the poor pitching, like, their success can be sustainable throughout a season, or do you see kind of a tail off, at this halfway point of the season?
I think just the way sports work, it's never going to even out. It's just like with life in general. As soon as one thing gets fixed, like let's say, like for me, all of a sudden I had a dead battery in my car and it was a pain in the neck to fix. But it's like as soon as the car battery gets fixed, well, now there's probably some other issue in my life that's going to come up just randomly as life goes. So as soon as the starting pitching starts throwing zeros, Ross is throwing strikes, Thompson is shoving, all these guys, they're putting in 5 to 6 innings, 1 to 2 runs allowed. Well, then we might see the offense just dip down. So it's just going to be this weird sliding scale where nothing will ever even out at the same time. So it's just how it goes.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt, for coming on and discussing the poor pitching of the Spartans. If you have a Twitter to shout out, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt Weiner 20. I guess like a final thoughts on everything that I think might give people a good understanding of what's been going on is the offense. I just like can't. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. It's just how the Spartans offense has been able to come back late, and just some of the crazy rallies that they're able to put together. And like against SDSU, game 3, they're down 6-1 heading into the bottom of the 6th, score 4 runs right there, 6-5, tack on another couple runs, and then end up walking it off on a bases loaded drop third strike. So just want to put in perspective that there is a lot going on. We're just kind of focusing on what's not going right, but there is a lot going on like correctly, and they've also doubled their win total from last year until less than halfway through the season, like you mentioned.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning all of that. Definitely, I guess everything we've talked about has been pretty negative, but yeah, there's other aspects of the game that they have been really good at. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, and I guess last thing, just show up for flights on time. The reason why that came up, it's like for the references, like you guys asking before, it's like the references are all just random things that come up in my life. So yeah, that was a random thing that came up because I just wasn't prepared to go to the airport, and I was like, yeah, this probably fits.
You're gonna be that dad that like tells the family to wake up like 3 hours before the flight and then get there like 2 hours before the flight even boards, just so you're there on time. I know that's how my dad is. So,
and then I'm gonna forget a stroller and diapers.